Kass and it's Kass and Gab Tutorials, Episode 3.
Hi, I'm Gab and here we explain and demonstrate Java topics in detail just for you.
Our topic for this episode will be polymorphism in Java. So we will explain to you first the agenda in this episode.
By the end of this episode, we can define what polymorphism is and we will state and show some examples of it for you to understand polymorphism in a better way.
And later on, we will show you a demo on how we code polymorphism to provide you with clear understanding on how polymorphism is applied into Java. By the way, the IDE that we will use for the entire tutorial is Eclipse. So I hope we made all things clear for this episode's agenda. Now let's begin our session today.
We will now define first what is polymorphism. To understand this, let's take an example of a chameleon. You all know what is a chameleon is, right? This creature is known for its ability to change its colors to hide himself from predators and for him to survive. If someone asks you how it does that, you can simply say that it is because of its polymorphic nature.
Similarly, in the programming world, Java objects possess the same functionality where each object can take multiple forms. This property is called polymorphism in Java, where poly means many and morph means one or more forms. Polymorphism is one of the object-oriented programming features that allows us to perform a single action in different ways.
Now that you have understood what is polymorphism, we will now proceed to the examples. Let's say we have a class named animal that has a method sound. Since this is a generic class, so we cannot give it an implementation like roar, meow, oink, and etc. So we have to give it a generic message.
Another example is here. You can see the image. The person in the middle can act into multiple forms. Firstly, you can see a person being a student. Followed by that, he will become an employee of a company and also he would like to play some sports. Then the same person is acting as an interviewer for a professor, then the same acting as a normal human being who is purchasing some groceries. And the last example of the same person being a family man. You can see that the same person is playing different roles in different situations. This is called polymorphism of a human being.
So that are some examples of polymorphism. Well, actually, there's still a lot of examples of polymorphism along with its type. But what we're showing you in this video are basic and simple examples only that would generally define what polymorphism is.
Yes, Gab is right, and we decided on not choosing the complex examples of polymorphism since we are thinking that maybe there are some viewers who are beginners and new to the programming world, and these examples aren't that hard for them to cope up, especially when we will already proceed to the coding. Speaking of coding, let us now proceed to the code.
Let's get straight into polymorphism by making a new Java project. We'll call it poly from the word polymorphism, and then we'll make our class to start learning about polymorphism. Then click the main method and finish.
So let's get into this. Create a class on top, specifically here in the first line, and we'll call it dog. Dog. So basically, we will use the dog as an example for this code. A class in an outline for an object, and in this case, ours is called dog. And everything that's inside of a class are just variables and methods. Every object in the world has properties and things that it can do, so we represent those properties and things it can do as variables and methods.
So in this case, let's make a method for this dog. What can dogs do? They can bark, so let's give this method a keyword, like public void, because we will just print something out and not return anything, and we'll name this method bark.
So after doing this or typing this method, we'll print this method into arf, 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 since it is the sound of the dog when it barks, right? So now if we create this dog object in the main method, we can do b dot bark, and we'll see inside of that bark method, run.
Now this is one form of the method bark, but we want to get into many forms since it is a polymorphism. This comes into play when you have a class that's related to it and that has the same method to that class. Let's use inheritance to create another dog that has the same bark method.
Now, what's a subtype of a dog? What's a kind of dog? So we could do a Doberman. So we can say that we have a class Doberman. We will put this class here like this. Now what we could do is copy and paste this in here, or we could assume that it already knows how it barks the same from the dog by typing extends dog.
This means every time we type Doberman, it knows everything inside of the dog class. So if we do Doberman B equals new Doberman, it can still know how to bark.
Okay, and if we create another dog, for example, let's say husky. I'm not totally sure what sound huskies make, but it is also a dog, so we can extend dog. And if we put husky here, it'll be the exact same. It'll bark the exact same, but this isn't exactly accurate because all dogs don't sound arf 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 always, right? So what we can do is create its own bark method that will act a little differently based on what kind of dog it is.
So in this case, we just copied and pasted the dog bark method into the Doberman bark method. And maybe the Doberman goes to, let's do system.out.println graph, graph, graph.
So technically now, this Doberman class knows a method called bark, but it also knows another method called bark here. So which one will it run when we do Doberman? Doberman equals new Doberman bark. Let's test it out. So what you can see here is we get rough, 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 even though Doberman knows two methods called bark exactly the same. It prioritizes the one directly in the class. So if this was gone and we deleted this rough, rough, rough and run this again, it would run arf, arf, arf since it does extends dog. It knows everything inside of the dog class, and that's polymorphism. It has many versions of the bark method, but it prioritizes this one. The same as the husky, but the husky will bark differently than a Doberman and a regular dog.
So we'll say that the husky goes ow ow ow. Well, I'm not sure about that, but if we make our husky down here, let's write husky.b equals new husky, then we'll get that sound ow ow ow.
So one important note, let's clean this up a little bit first. So we just have the class Doberman now, and I'll change this back to Doberman. An important note is that if this bark method has some sort of parameter inside, and we save and run b.bark, it will run that bark method with no parameters. So it got to be the exact name of the method and exact name of parameters, and also the correct parameters. So that's polymorphism.
And the code that we showed you earlier is just a basic example of polymorphism, so that it will be easy to understand, especially to the viewers who are just learning about this topic.
Yes, and basically polymorphism has two types. Number one is compile time polymorphism or static binding, and number two, runtime polymorphism or dynamic binding.
And that's it for today. See you in our next episode.
If you have questions, leave a comment down below, and if you learn and understand the lesson, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you on our
See you in
next
our next
video.
video.